start the chapter 10 as well. Okay, so so we remember how Prabhupada was missing, feeling deep separation from his spiritual master on his disappearance day, right? On the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Abhay keenly felt separation from his spiritual master. He perfectly understood that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's instructions were more important than his physical presence, and that in fact the spiritual master was present within his instructions. In this way, Abhay had always been with his spiritual master. Yet on this annual day, Abhay could not help feeling loss. He remembered how in 1932 he had been a grahastha and a new disciple. At that time, he had not been free to do as much service as now. Yet, it had been in those years that he had been able to see his spiritual master, offer obeisances before him, eat the remnants of his prasadam, walk beside him, hear his voice, receive his personal glance. Abhay thought of their meetings together. How powerful had been Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's mission. His presses had been running day and night, printing magazines, books, the daily Nadia Prakash, and Europe had been a promising new preaching field. With Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's at the helm, the Gaudiya Math had entered into battle against Maya's forces, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had made all his disciples unafraid. Abhay had always been eager to serve his spiritual master, to serve within the Gaudiya Math with its headquarters in Calcutta. But exactly how he could serve had never been clear to him until his last letter from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Abhay looked back on the more than 20 years since his spiritual master's disappearance. The Gaudiya Math had been undone by its leaders, and everyone else had scattered like leaves in a storm. It was an unspeakable loss, and it was an old story how the big sannyasis had disregarded their spiritual master's instructions and had intrigued, disputed, litigated, violent party factions, false leaders claiming to be world acharya, and which party had been right? No, both had been wrong, all wrong, because the Gaudiya Math had disintegrated. Now there were dozens of little mathas and no preaching, no real preaching as before. When he, Simhaguru, had cast fear into the Mayavadis, had led an army of young, powerful preachers to march throughout India and the world, and the greatest sufferers of the Gaudiya Math's dissolutions were the people, the non-devotees, who had little hope of being delivered from the batterings of Maya. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had begun a spiritual revolution, but that revolution had now been overthrown by Maya. The scattered parties of Gaudiya Math had settled quietly into self-satisfied, insular, more important units. And it was the people in general who suffered. Hare Krishna. I welcome everyone. This is a great reflection or realization Prabhupada is thinking. You know, it's 20 years he's been in separation from his spiritual master. I think 1937 or 38 he left. So almost 20 years. Now, please understand this. With this is making Prabhupada really humble. Is making him feel so humble that I've been struggling so hard. And here is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was preaching like a lion. His disciples were fearlessly preaching. He could establish so many mathas, so many printing presses, everything was going so well. And because of Prabhupada's deep appreciation for his spiritual master has increased by knowing that in all my efforts I've been putting, nothing is coming out. And here is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur could do so many things actually. At the same time, he's thinking unnecessarily and uselessly the followers of the Gaudiya Math, because they didn't follow the instructions of the spiritual master. They destroyed everything. They didn't follow his instructions. They did not cooperate. Everybody is doing in their isolation, and who just simply for fighting for who is going to be the acharya. So his point is, was that is the goal of coming to this mission, to fight and claim our proprietorship? Then now he's contemplating that, okay, then who is actually the losers? Who is suffering? He is saying that, okay, somehow or other, even if you fight or not, you came to Krishna consciousness. But actually people who are suffering is those who never got an opportunity to experience Krishna consciousness. That's what I understand, and from his deep feeling of he's reflecting back in 20 years and seeing all these things, blaming why unnecessarily people fought, and they forgot the real purpose. We are here, and now mankind is suffering. No one is willing to listen. Okay, Gaurav.
Abhay groped after memories of his spiritual master. He felt secure in that his own relationship with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was intact, continuing. Yet he felt helpless. He was diligently pursuing his spiritual master's orders to preach in English. Yet without his spiritual master's physical presence, he felt small and very much alone. At times like this, he questioned the wisdom of having left his family and business. Lamenting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's absence in the fall of the Gaudiya Math, he composed a Bengali poem, Vidha Astaka. Srila Prabhupada, you are always compassionate towards the suffering jiva souls. On this occasion of your separation, I see only dejection, an unlimited ocean of mercy cutting an illusion. Nityananda distributed an ocean of flood of love of God. The Jati Gosai stopped the stream, but coming yourself, Lord, you revealed disillusion. So once again, everyone was immersed in the flood of love. Even one so fallen, insignificant, and sinful as I. On the strength of Lord Chaitanya's order, you sent all of your servants door to door as gurus. There was preaching everywhere, from the sea to the Himalayas. Now in your absence, everything is darkness. O Srila Prabhupada, you are always compassionate towards the suffering jiva souls. On this occasion of your separation, I see only dejection. In the same way that Advaita Prabhu brought Lord Gora, so did Bhaktivinoda pray. His enthusiasm brought you. On the strength of his enthusiasm, you came and made everyone understand that India is a holy land. One who takes his birth in the land of Bharat must make his life perfect and then preach to others. This Mahamantra message you preached everywhere. Now in your absence, Lord, everything is darkness. Your ocean of compassion has again been stopped. The spear of great misery has cut through my heart. Without Lord Chaitanya's message, there is just confusion. Seeing this, all the Vaishnavas feel pangs of separation. The conditioned souls are in darkness once again. They are searching for peace, but are dying in an ocean of anxiety. O Srila Prabhupada, you are always compassionate toward the suffering jiva souls. On this occasion of your separation, I see only dejection.
Okay, so Gaurang gave me to explain on this. So Prabhupada lamenting his absence. Actually, Prabhupada told into disciples, I never felt separation from my spiritual master. I was always with him. But still, we can understand where he is, what journey he had gone through. He's really lamenting his absence. One pure devotee can impact so much into the life. So he composed this Bengali poem, Viraha Ashtaka. Viraha Ashtaka means there's a prayer. Its English translation is given because it says the Viraha Ashtaka means the 8 prayers. 8 prayers in separation from his spiritual master. This is his right. He said that you did Jati. No, you can. He said you wrote Jati Gosai, stopped the stream, but coming yourself, Lord, you revealed this illusion. So once everyone was immersed in the flood of love, even one is fallen, insignificant and sinful as I. So one is glorifying one great personality like you is enough to deliver the people of this whole world. So basically, he's expressing, in one sense, you can say it's kind of a Vyas Puja, but he's writing a poem in separation from a spiritual master. We can get that. Biraha Ashtakam. Okay, AJ, please go ahead.
Abai's was a dark view. The golden era of preaching that had flourished in the days of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was no longer. By the influence of Maya, Abai wrote, now everything is darkness. All devotional instructions have been destroyed. Now everything has been reversed. Meditating on that great personality, possessed of the divine power to save the entire world, Abai expressed his feelings of weakness and helplessness. Because of those not fixed in devotional service, many branches have spread all over. Your conclusive message did not touch the ear. Where will I get the strength for the Sankirtan movement? How could he, a tiny spiritual child, survive without his spiritual father? Now who could save the world which was so much more oppressed than ever before? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had said that a dead man could not preach, only one with life could preach. As long as Abai and others could deeply regret the Gaudiya Math's failure, there was still life and still hope. If everyone obtained this right and went out and made disciples, then the suffering souls in the world could be saved. It was useless to cry over what his god brothers had done, yet in seeing and resenting it, Abai found within the pain of what might have been, a continuing spark of what still might be. Abai sent the poem and Vrindavan Bhajan to Keshava Maharaj, who published them in the Gaudiya Patrika. One night, Abai had a striking dream, the same dream he had had several times before, during his days as a householder. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati appeared just as Abai had known him, the tall scholarly sannyasi coming directly from the spiritual world, from Krishna's personal entourage. He called to Abai and indicated that he should follow. Repeatedly he called and motioned. He was asking Abai to take sannyas. Come, he urged, become a sannyasi. Abai awoke in a state of wonder. He thought of this instruction as another feature of the original instruction Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had given him at their first meeting in Calcutta. The same instruction that his spiritual master had later solidified in a letter. Become an English preacher and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the Western world. Sannyas was for that end. Otherwise, why would his spiritual master have asked him to accept it? Abai reasoned that his spiritual master was saying, now take sannyas and you will actually be able to accomplish this mission. Formerly, the time was not right. So in the first part, it sounds like, for what seems like for the first time, Abai is kind of having doubts about his ability to accomplish the mission that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had given him, and he's just kind of feeling overwhelmed and but at the same time he's saying he's still seeing, as it gets into the next paragraph, right? He's still seeing a little bit of a spark there. So around that same time, he had that dream, which he's had multiple times where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati came to him in the dream and kind of reaffirmed his faith again, right? Said, hey, this is your mission. It's time now for you to take sannyas. And that's the only way you'll be able to accomplish this is if you do that. So yeah, and I guess we find out next if he did or not.
Yes, you did. Yeah, thank you. Basically, in the first part, he's still feeling that you're right. He's feeling, at the same time, he's feeling appreciating also the greatness of his spiritual master. He could have saved so many lives. But it's a great lessons he's going through all this journey, actually.
But I mean, it is something that, I mean, at least this is the first time I guess it's documented where in the 40 years or something that he's saying he's finally showing a little bit of doubt in his ability.
Yes.
Prior and that, I mean, that's a long time. That's a to finally start having a little bit of skepticism, or not skepticism, but just a blip in his faith, I guess. At that age,
he is feeling at the same time he is not kind of given up. Still, time is there. It's kind of a little mixed feeling. That's why I said humbling. It is humbling. Humbling means, sometimes it makes us very humble when we try and so much we want, but doesn't happen so easily. it is humbling, but he has not given up
Yep.
his endeavor attempts. But at least he got some instruction here saying that now it's time you have to take the sannyas. If you take the sannyas, you will get better results, something, right? Did I say that? Did I read right? That's what it says. Uh, now take sannyas, you will be actually here. Last statement. Now take sannyas, and you will actually be able to accomplish this mission. Formally, the time was not right. So basically, start now. Yeah, Brajraspu, you can read.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Hope your internet is clear.
Just a second. Abhay deliberated cautiously by accepting sannyas. A Vaishnava dedicates his body totally to the service of Supreme Personality of Godhead, renouncing all other engagements. He was doing that already. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had offered sannyas to his leading disciples so that they could continue his mission. They hadn't done it. Preaching in the West had proved perilous even for the Kaudiyamat's most recognized sannyasis. How could he, a mere householder, presume he could succeed where the others had failed? He was hesitant. The helpless, incapable feeling he had expressed in his Viraha Ashtaka was there. But now his spiritual master was beckoning him over all other considerations, even over natural humility. Now, although he was elderly and alone, the desire to preach just as his spiritual master had preached remained within him. A fierce, though sometimes quietly expressed determination. The Vedic standard and the example set by the previous acharyas was that if one wanted to lead a preaching movement, sannyas was required. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had taken sannyas to facilitate his missionary work. Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas to further the Sankirtan movement. Of course, Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but when his young students had been disrespectful towards him, treating him as an ordinary man, he had taken sannyas because a sannyasi is automatically respected. Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of sannyas was a calculated tactic as soon as he began traveling throughout India as sannyasi. He immediately attracted thousands of followers to the Sankirtan movement. Knowing that many cheaters would accept the saffron dress and abuse the respect given to sannyasis, Lord Chaitanya had advised against accepting sannyas in the age of Kali. He knew that cheaters in the guise of sadhus would act immorally, accumulate funds for their own sense gratification, and make many followers simply to enhance their own prestige. Posing as swamis, they will cheat the public because the people in Kali Yuga are unable to follow the rules and regulations of sannyas. Lord Chaitanya had recommended that they simply chant Hare Krishna. However, if a person could actually follow the rules, and especially if he had to spread the Sankirtan movement, sannyas was necessary. So here, Satsub Maharaj is writing that how Srila Prabhupada, he is basically, what is the reason behind Prabhupada accepting sannyas? This is the whole theme of these three paragraphs. The only reason Prabhupada wanted to take sannyas was for preaching. He had no idea, he has no intentions to make money. He had no intentions to have followers, right? And that's how it's explained here that what are the qualification of a sannyasi? What are the prerequisites where a sannyasi, one should take sannyas? And humility is one of the key principle, where Prabhupada is actually being very humble, talking about, Viraha Astaka. Okay, and the example quote here is of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas because the reason was when Mahaprabhu was staying in Navadip in Mayapur. At that time, he had long, beautiful hairs, and he was a teacher, and he was doing kirtan day and night. So the learned people were commenting. Hmm. Even his own students in his grammar school were commenting, that what is this? While teaching grammar, you are talking about the ecstasies of devotional service. So that's where he decided that if I take sannyas, then people are going to revere me and respect me. So as far as in the Gaudiya, as far as the mission or the parampara in which we are coming, there was no parampara of taking sannyas, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went outside the parampara. He took sannyas from Keshav Bharati Maharaj, uh, and he proved that yes, an acharya is supposed to, a leader or an acharya or the supreme personality of Godhead is can change the principles. He can change. He introduced the sannyas order at the age of 23 or 24, uh, which is like Prabhupada when came to America, he introduced this sannyas order in the life of the merry Americans at the age of 19, 20, 21. Lot of sannyasis. Yeah, Prabhupada gave a lot of sannyas. So then there is a caution. The caution is given that if one is not focusing one's ultimate purpose of taking sannyas is to preach, and that is an order of life where one continuously work for pleasing Krishna and to preach the Sankirtan movement. And there are the ill effects of this pastime happened when Prithu Maharaj left his horse. He did 100 Ashwamedh Yagyas, 99. And while he was performing the 100th one, Indra, he stole the horse of Prithu Maharaj. And at the time, uh, Indra actually was running away from son of Prithu Maharaj. And while he was running away, he disguised himself into many in the form of a sage. And the Rishi Munis, this was happening in the sky. And the Rishi Munis were sitting down on the earth. They declared to the son of Prithu Maharaj that actually this is Indra. He has taken the garb of sannyas. So then, since then, because of that, the so-called bogus gurus or the bogus sannyasis, their parampara started like that. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting, no? So it
Yeah.
says that in order to able to do, you must take sannyas. That's the parampara was there. There are so many before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also parampara of doing sannyas was there. But looks like to preach successfully in this is both pros and cons. If you follow properly, follow the mission, then you'll be very successful. Otherwise, you'll simply ruin yourself and ruin others. Okay, so Vijayanand Prabhu, please.
Abhay first had to approach one of his god brothers for permission. He decided to turn to Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja, formerly Kunja Vihari, the leader of the Chaitanya Math in Calcutta. Abhay still thought of the Chaitanya Math as the headquarters of his spiritual master's mission. During the heated legal disputes, the Chaitanya Math had been the most prized acquisition. And since 1948, it had been under the legal ownership of Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja. Now, although each sannyasi had his own place or places, the Chaitanya Math and Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja legally represented the Gaudiya Math entity. Abhay felt that if he were to take sannyasa and go preach in America, he should give the Chaitanya Math the first opportunity to support his work. In April 1959, Abhay wrote to Tirtha Maharaja inquiring about sannyasa and the Chaitanya Math's printing some of his manuscripts. And since no one was going abroad, he volunteered to do so on behalf of Chaitanya Math. Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja replied that Abe should first join the Chaitanya Math. He mentioned the strife that still lingered. Those who are acting against Chaitanya Math, they are motivated by their individual ambitions. Anyone who was against the Chaitanya Math, he said, was acting illogically and against the instructions of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So according to Tirtha Maharaja, the thing for Abe to do, the thing he had neglected to do for so many years, was to join the Chaitanya Math and act under his direction. Tirtha Maharaja mentioned several members of the Chaitanya Math who had recently accepted the sannyasa order, and he said that Abe could also become one in time. He invited Abe to come reside at the Chaitanya Math. The houses that we have, there are rooms that are airy and well lit. We will treat you exclusively. There won't be any difficulty. We will take care that no inconveniences are caused. But as for printing books, we are eagerly awaiting to print the books like Satsandarbha Vedanta based on devotional service and many other rare books by the Goswamis. First, we will print them. Books written by you will be checked by the editorial staff, and if the funds can be raised and they can be printed according to priority. The books will be printed only if they are favorable for the service of the Chaitanya Math. Therefore, if the fund is raised, then there is a plan to go abroad as well. Okay, so this passages describes like the situation, how what are all the scenarios Abe has to face when he was willing to take sannyas. So basically, once he got that idea that he has to take sannyas, he first thought of approaching the his god brothers for permission, and he decided to reach to Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja, who was the leader of the Chaitanya Math in Calcutta. And the reason for reaching him, because Abe still thought that Chaitanya Math was the headquarters of spiritual master's mission. Like even though several people were there was no, even though there was no unity among the Gaudiya people, and everyone had their own mats and other devotion service happening like parallelly. But still, Abe thought that Chaitanya Math is something he used to connect with his spiritual master. So and he also felt that Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja legally represented the Gaudiya Math. So he wrote to Tirtha Maharaja and inquiring about sannyasa and taking help of Chaitanya Maths for printing his manuscripts. So basically, once he tried to reach to Tirtha Maharaja, so Tirtha Maharaja gave him like a few conditions basically. So some of them were like he advised Abe to join Chaitanya Math, and then do his to join Chaitanya Math and then take sannyas, as well as stay there with other sannyasis and do the preaching. And regarding the and also he said he can also Chaitanya Math basically can support in printing up his manuscripts, as well as once they raise the fund, they can also use it for the his trip to America. So and also regarding the printing the manuscripts, they told first his articles will be reviewed by the editorial staff, and if the funds are available and if it is raised, then it will be printed according to the priority. So these are all the various conditions he has to agree if Abe has to become a sannyasi with the Chaitanya Math.
Very nice, thank you. I mean, it makes sense, isn't it? But the problem is, Bhakti spiritual master said he should do it separately, isn't it, in the beginning, and he has seen it. Now he's going and approaching. They say, how can you do, because you're not part of our organization? First, commit to our organization, and then you can do. And we will, if needed, if you can, we will send you to Western world also. And without joining, we cannot do it. But Prabhupada had his spiritual master say, stay separate. Anyway, who is next? Swati Mataji, please read.
We are eagerly wait. We are eagerly awaiting to print the books like Satsandarbha. I'm sorry, Prabhuji, I changed the screen. Satsang Sarba, Vedanta, based on the devotional service, and many other rare books by Goswamis. First, we will print them. Books written by you will be checked by the editorial staff. And if the funds can be raised, then they can be printed according to the priority. The book will be printed only if they are favorable for the service of Chaitanya Math. Therefore, if the fund is raised, then there is a plan to go abroad as well. Abhay was not encouraged. The main difficulty he felt was Chaitanya Math, shortage of funds. Srila Prabhupada, I was working with my broken typewriter. I went to our Tirtha Maharaja. You gave me a room and print my books. Give me some money. I will join you. I had thought. This is Guru Maharaj instructions. He did not say no, but the printing of books was difficult task for me. He had no money. He was hardly collecting for maintaining printing of books is a big job, and there is no gratitude of sale. Without printing books and going to the West, sannyasa did not have meaning for Abhay. And who know when Tirtha Maharaja would sanction his taking sannyasa. There was no point in going to Calcutta just to reside in an airy, well lit room that he had already in Vrindavan. Abhay wrote back to Tirtha Maharaja mentioning his direct order from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati to preach to the English speaking people. He wanted to go to West right away and he had thought that Chaitanya Matha would welcome his offer. Both Abhay and Tirtha Maharaja had their responsibilities, but perhaps they could work together to carry out the desire of the spiritual master. Abhay asked Tirtha Maharaja to reconsider. On May 7th, 1959, Bhaktivilasa Tirtha Maharaja wrote back.
Yeah. Um, so you want me right? Okay. So here in conversation with um, from here, we are eagerly waiting, right? Yeah. So we are eagerly waiting to print the books of like Satsanga. This is being spoken by Vilas Tirtha Swami Maharaj. He's saying that we are waiting to write this based on, but many other books. First, we will print them, and books written by will be checked by the editor. So basically, we have already priority list. Then after that, whatever you are saying, we will write it down. So Prabhupada Abhay was not encouraged. The main difficulty he felt was the Chaitanya Math shortage of fund. He understood that Chaitanya Math is having fund. That's why he said that, I was working with my broken typewriter. I went to Tirtha Maharaj, you give me a room and print my books. Give me some money, I will join you. So he said that it is my good, it is my spiritual master's instruction, right? In one sense, he asked him to write. He had thought this is Guru Maharaj's institution. He did not say no, but the printing of books was a little task, difficult task for him, because they didn't have much money. That financially, they're also very difficult times, because one is they said they have their own priorities to book print. The other, they cannot print his. Anyway, without printing books, and Prabhupada felt it's useless. If I cannot print books and cannot go to West, then what is the purpose of joining actually and taking sannyas? So there was no point in going to Calcutta just because I'm already staying well in Vrindavan. My first priority is he wanted to go to West right away. He thought that Chaitanya Math would welcome his offer, but both Abhay and Tirtha Maharaj had their responsibility. But perhaps they could work together to carry out the desire of the spiritual master. He approached to see how it comes. Looks like they partially agreed, but looks like they didn't have much capacity to do it as well. Um, and he cannot just commit for that. Srikar?
My suggestion is don't make any hasty decisions. For the time being, you stay with us and engage yourself in the service of the society and then accept Tridanda, Sannyasa. The purpose of accepting Tridanda is to serve the society. If that is your desire, then Sri Chaitanya Math will decide about your going to America to preach and make all arrangements. It can never be the principle of the society to let one act according to his individual attempt or desire. The society will decide after consulting with the heads what is to be done with whom. This is what I want to say. First of all, it is necessary to identify oneself with the society. In order to preach in America or in other foreign countries, it is important to have a dignified organization in the background. And secondly, it is necessary to establish oneself in India before going to preach in the foreign countries. Now, it is that there are no conferences or meetings in the West as before. Communication is done through the media of television. Abhay could understand the needs and priorities of Chaitanya Math, but he could not allow them to overrule what he considered the highest mandate, preaching, as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has ordered. Abhay had offered his services to the leaders of Chaitanya Math, thinking they might also see things this way. He thought that with the world's crying need for Krishna consciousness starting them in the face, they might see that this Abhay Babu was convinced and enthusiastic and so should be sent right away with whatever he required. But they had other priorities. Abhay,
Hmm.
yes.
Good.
So here we see that when he gets a reply back from Maharaj, Keshav Bharati Maharaj, and then he says that he suggests
Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Swami Maharaj.
sorry, then in that he suggests Prabhupada not to make any hasty decisions, and then he asked for the time being to join Chaitanya Math and engage in the service of the society. And then he mentioned that sannyas means serving society, so you can come join and then take sannyas eventually and serve society. And then he said that he also mentioned that the Chaitanya Math will decide about Abhay's going to America and preach. When the time comes, then they'll consult with the seniors of the Chaitanya Math and then they'll decide when he should go. And because Tirtha Maharaj felt that in order to preach in foreign countries, it is important that one has to identify oneself with a dignified organization in the background. And then he also felt that one has to first establish oneself really very powerfully in India and then go abroad and preach. But Srila Prabhupada understood the priorities of the Chaitanya Math, but still he did not allow them to overrule what he considered the highest priority of Guru Maharaj, like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ordered him to preach. So he felt that instruction is the number one priority than anything else. So he wanted to offer his services to Chaitanya Math to go out and preach, but it looks like Chaitanya Math had some other priorities and they were not so encouraging. Pro Sridhar is not here today.
Oh, she's not there. Okay. Who is Prasanthi? Yes, Sai Kiran Prabhu, please read.
Abhay next turned to Keshav Maharaj in Mathura, and Keshav Maharaj told Abhay to take sannyas immediately. After corresponding with Tirtha Maharaj, Abhay had felt some uncertainty about accepting sannyas, and now that he was being encouraged so strongly, he resisted. But Keshav Maharaj was insistent. Srila Prabhupada, I was sitting alone in Vrindavan writing. My god brother insisted to me, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, you must do it. Without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So he insisted. Not he insisted, practically my spiritual master insisted. He wanted me to become a preacher, so he forced me through his god brother. You accept, so unwillingly I accepted. Keshavji Gaudiya Math was located in the midst of one of Mathura's downtown bazaars. Its main entrance, an arched doorway, led into a courtyard open to the sky through a metal grating above. The architecture was similar to that of the Vamshi Gopalji temple. The atmosphere was secluded as in a monastery. Abhay was a familiar, welcomed figure here. He had lived here, written and studied in the library, edited the Gaudiya Patrika, and donated the deity of Lord Chaitanya, who stood on the altar besides the deities of Radha and Krishna. Sri Sri Radha Vinoda Vihariji. But his visit during September of 1959 was not an ordinary one. He entered the Mata and dressed in white, Abhay Babu, but he would soon be leaving dressed in a saffron Swami. So here, after things did not go as planned when he was when he was in touch with Bhakti Vilas Tirth Maharaj. He next turned to Kesav Maharaj in Mathura, who has his mutt there, to take sannyas. And here Kesav Maharaj was actually insisting Abhay to take sannyas. And and it was his Guru Maharaj also insisting Abhay to take sannyas. The Mathura Mutt was also the same one where Abhay had originally gone before going to Delhi. So he had stayed in that place before, and he also had donated the Lord Chaitanya's deity there. He also contributed for the Gaudiya Patrika before going to Delhi. And then this time, this visit was special because when he entered the mutt, he was dressed in white, but he was going to become a Swami after this.
Nice.
Josna is not here today, Prabhu.
Oh, today is everybody's break day, huh? Nice. Syamala Devi is also not here with me. Prasanthi, you please go ahead.
Abhay had been living as a renunciate from 9 years. There was no need for him to observe a ceremony or to proclaim himself a sadhu by changing to saffron dress. But it was the parampara system that a man take Tridandi sannyasa at the end of his life. He was aware of the cheating sannyasis even in Vrindavana. He had seen so-called sadhus who did not preach, but simply spent their days hunting for chapatis. Some swamis of Vrindavana even indulged illicitly in what they had supposedly come here to reject, sex life. Such persons were making a mockery of sannyasa, and there were the chaste Goswamis,
Caste Goswamis.
caste Goswamis also, who lived like ordinary householders, running temples as a business to support their families, and accepting honor and donations from the public on the false basis of birth. Abhay knew of these abuses of sannyasa, but he also knew the real purpose of sannyasa for preaching. On the morning of September 17, 1959, in the 50 by 25-foot deity room on the second floor of the Keshavji Mutt, a group of devotees sat before the deities of Radha Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. The deities were colorfully dressed in royal clothing and silver crowns. Radha Rani's right hand faced palm forward in benediction for the worshipper. At her side, her left hand held a flower for Krishna. Krishna stood like a dancer, placing his right leg in a casual tiptoe pose before his left, playing his long silver flute, which he held gracefully to his red lips. His long black hair reached down past his shoulders, and the garland of marigolds around his neck reached down to his knees. On his right stood the deity of Lord Chaitanya, his right arm raised, left arm at his side, his body straight, feet together. He was a soft golden color and had large eyes, a well-formed red mouth, and straight black hair down to his shoulders. One level below the deities were pictures of the spiritual masters in disciplic succession. Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakura, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Prajnana Kesava Maharaja. Abhay was ready to take his sannyasa. He was already living as a renunciant for 9 years, and they were getting ready for the ceremony. According to the parampara, he has to take the Tridandi sannyasa. But here it explains the present world scenario, like there are cheating sannyasis and also real sannyasis. There were even they were present in Vrindavana also. Like they are not following the rules and regulations of sannyasa life, and they are having illicit relations, and also they are spending their time hunting for food, and also making a business out of temples, and living a false life under the pretense of sannyasa. So and he also knows what sannyasa is about. Sannyasa is for preaching, and all of them are assembled in the deity room in front of Radha Krishna and Lord Chaitanya deities, um, and they were describing the altar here about the deities, and they were all getting ready for the ceremony.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So here it is Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Maharaj. So basically, it's coming from he is going to take initiation, sannyas initiation from him. Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Maharaj. Pranath, who you will read?
Abhay sat on a mat of kusa grass beside 90-year-old Sanatana, also to receive sannyasa that day. Sitting opposite the two candidates, Narayan Maharaj, Keshav Maharaj's disciple, prepared to conduct the ceremony of mantras and offerings of grains and ghee into the fire. Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji, his god brother, known for sweet singing, played mridanga and sang Vaishnav bhajans. Sitting on a raised asana, His Holiness Keshav Maharaj presided. Since there had been no notices or invitations, only the Matha's few residents attended. Narayan Maharaj chanted the required mantras and then sat back silently while Keshav Maharaj lectured. Then, to everyone's surprise, Keshav Maharaj asked Abhay to speak. Abhay had not expected this. As he looked around at the gathering of devotees, he understood that the common language was in Hindi. Only Keshav Maharaj and a few others spoke English. Yet he knew he must speak in English. After Abhay's speech, each initiate received his sannyasa danda, the traditional head high staff made of 4 bamboo rods bound together and completely enwrapped in saffron cloth. They were given their sannyasa garments, 1 piece of saffron cloth for a dhoti, 1 for a top piece, and 2 strips for underwear. They also received tulsi neck beads and the sannyasa mantra. Keshav Maharaj said that Abhay would now be known as Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, and that Sanatan would be Muni Maharaj. After the ceremony, the 2 new sannyasis posed for a photo standing on their side of their sannyasa guru who sat in a chair. Keshav Maharaj didn't impose any strictures on Abhay. He simply encouraged him to go on preaching. Yet Abhay knew that to become A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami did not mean merely that he was giving up family, home comforts, and business that he had done 5 years ago. Changing from white cloth to saffron cloth, from Abhay Babu to Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj had a special significance. It was the mandate he had required, the irrevocable commitment. Now it was only a matter of time before Bhaktivedanta Swami would travel to the west as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had ordained. This was Bhaktivedanta Swami's realization of his new sannyasa status. So we are talking about the sannyasa ceremony of Abhay as well as Sanatana. 90-year-old. Wow. Is that right? That's what we read?
Yeah, it's here. 90-year-old.
And
he also took sannyas.
yes. And Narayan Maharaj was making all the preparations for the ceremony. all the yagnas preparations. And Kinchan Krishnadas Babaji, Prabhupada's god brother, was playing the mridang and doing kirtan. And His Holiness Keshav Maharaj was the one who presided over the sannyasa ceremony. And there were only very few invitations, which was primarily the Mata's residence. So the lecture was given for the ceremony by Keshav Maharaj. Uh, but then he asked Abhay to speak, which was totally unexpected. Uh, although the common language was Hindi, but he spoke in English. There were only a handful of them, other than Keshav Maharaj and Abhay, who understood or spoke English. And the next paragraph describes the sannyasa. What happens? What does one receive after the sannyasa initiation? And all received a sannyasa danda and the rods and the cloth, tulsi neck beads, and then Keshav Maharaj just encouraged Prabhupada to go on preaching, and Prabhupada knew very well that it was not just about, sannyasa is usually about giving up family, but that he had done long back. So that was really not the purpose here of Prabhupada taking sannyasa. It was primarily, his further commitment and to travel to the West now was just a matter of time, as was ordained by his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And that was Prabhupada's realization and understanding of the purpose of sannyasa.
Nice. Is Mataji there?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
The Gaudiya.
The Gaudiya Patrika's account of the sannyasa initiation included a biographical sketch of Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaja listing the major events of his life. The article concluded, seeing his enthusiasm and ability to write articles in Hindi, English, and Bengali, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaja gave him the instruction to take Tridandi Sannyasa. For nearly 1 year, he had been ready to accept sannyasa. In the month of Bhadra, on the day on which Vishwarupa accepted sannyasa, Bhakti Prajnana Keshava Maharaja, seeing him accept his ashrama of renunciation, seeing this pastime for accepting the renounced order of life, we have attained great affection and enthusiasm. So this is, I think the major part in here was the biographical sketch that was included in the Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj on the account of sannyasa initiation. It says here that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj gave him the Tridandi sannyasa, and he's been ready for more than a year now to take sannyasa, and on an auspicious day he accepted sannyasa at Keshavji Gaudiya Math from the founder of Vedanta Samiti. I think that's pretty much here.
Vishwarupa is a good. Vishwarupa has taken sannyas on the same day.
Yeah.
I don't know what Brajaspa is sending now. So, Brajaspa, you're here?
It's in the picture.
Yeah, we all have seen the picture, right? Prabhupada and his Maharaj is sitting with the Bhakti Keshav Maharaj together. Very nice. So thank you so much. We will move, we still have 10 minutes, okay, to start. We will read 10 further minutes. So this is a great journey. It's up to all of you. Should have a quick reflection without starting. Let's have a quick reflection on this. What we did. I think it's interesting. That's better, right? 5-6 minutes will take. Then tomorrow we'll start a new chapter. Any reflections? Anyone can summarize? You want to summarize the whole thing? What we did? You should you'll be able to summarize. But let others share first. You can prepare in the meantime. Yeah, said loudly.
So starting from the beginning, he was traveling to Vrindavan, and
Yeah, where he traveled from Vrindavan?
he was traveling by train to Mathura.
Right, he kind of he gave up. He's traveling to Vrindavan from. No, it was Jhansi, right? Everyone remembers that. That's what. Before that, he traveled. Everything collapsed in Jhansi. Am I right?
He was traveling from Delhi, Prabhu.
Delhi, Delhi is failed. Yeah, it's how this chapter sounded like so much. Yeah, right. Morning train he took from Delhi to Agra. Right, this chapter begins from that to the Mathura actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so he went from Mathura to train by train, and they went to Vrindavan, and he stayed in Vrindavan for some time at the Vamsi Gopalji temple, which was near Keshi Ghat. And he stayed with the pujari, whose name was Mahant Gopal. And he gave the background of the temple and how the pujari had installed the Radharani deity there. And Abhay started thinking about his Back to Godhead magazine publishment in for the month of October. And he would write and he would travel and go different places. And they would give a list of how he would go shopping, and at 11 he would cook for himself. He would offer, and then he would eat at one time during noon, and he would drink milk in the evening. And where it explained how wherever Abhay would go, he would hear kirtan going on. If he went to one place, he would hear kirtan. As soon as that kirtan, he couldn't hear, kirtan would start somewhere else. And everyone there would greet as like Jai Jai Radhe, and he would greet back as Hare Krishna. Then he would always commute to Delhi for his Back to Godhead magazine. And after his 12th edition, which was issued for number 28, Mr. Jain said he couldn't help him out because Abhay didn't have money at that time. And then he had remembered what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had said. He had said that if you speak the truth and if you preach, money will come by itself to you if Krishna is pleased. And then he had traveled to Bombay, where he met Prabhakar, and he got the post of honorary professor of Bhagavad Gita. And he was also invited to the World Academy of Sanskrit, but because he understood that they were talking bogus and they're talking about their own personal views and not of what Krishna had said, he didn't like it and he didn't go there. And then at that same time, Abhay had started talking with Prabhakar on how to revive the League of Devotees. And then he went to Kanpur to preach there, and he stayed there for some time. And he would also go back to Bombay to where he would give lectures and preach. And then he had the wish of going to the West, and where he tried to meet Miss Sumati Maharaji.
No, her Scindia.
Yeah, but he couldn't meet her,
manager.
And he met her manager, who said that she could offer 50%, but he couldn't even raise that much money. Then time went by. In 1958, he was back at Vrindavan at the age of 62, and there Abhay had composed a poem that described his situation and how the world was suffering. And then for the October, November, he got a donation for the Back to Godhead magazine to print.
3,000 copies.
No, 1,000 copies.
1,000, another, yeah, each. So total 3,000 copies.
Yeah, and then came the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Abhay felt great separation, and he composed a Bengali poem which was named Viraha Astaka. And then Abhay again had a dream saying that his Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur coming to him saying to become a sannyasi. But he was hesitant because he didn't know if he should become a sannyasi or not. Then Abhay approached Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, and Tirtha Maharaj told him to not take a sannyasi right away, and that he should stay at the mutt and do some work and do some writing. But Abhay didn't feel encouraged because he knew the mutt's money was low, and he knew that he wasn't going to be able to print and publish any books. So then next Abhay turned to Keshav Maharaj, and Keshav Maharaj immediately told Abhay to immediately take sannyas, because he said without taking sannyas he wouldn't be able to preach more and more. And he explained how sannyasi was meant for one to preach. Then on the morning of September 17th, 1959, the sannyas program started, where in front of some devotees at the mutt, and he and Sanatan were going to take sannyas from under Keshav Maharaj. And he was initiated as Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj.
Very nice. Anyone else, please share some of the reflections from this chapter.
I thought it was interesting that Sanatana took sannyas at 90. It seems. I guess he had to wait until the right time, I guess, huh?
Not right time. Sannyas is generally not very easily available also. It's not that sannyasis are given so easily. Unless one is really see the readiness of that. If someone has really desires and all these things, one doesn't get the sannyas. No, sannyas is a big responsibility. That's why many times people do big problem by giving sannyas if somebody is not qualified. So does it make sense?
We also learned about how Abhay used to use the Back to Godhead magazine to criticize the President Rajendra Prasad at that time regarding their impersonalist views, and saying that was not the need of the hour. And the letters to Nehru, I don't know if it was from this chapter or it was previous.
Yeah, I think in this chapter he still wrote asking him to join his group. You're right. That's this chapter. Yeah, the question Nehru to join his league, but he didn't get any response. Then Mr. Harbans Lal from Bombay, who was his old landlord, he asked him to please, you're going to Germany, please help. If you can, I can teach you if you can preach in English. Basically, try to take support from many organizations, but everywhere he was finding as you have to water down, his philosophies. You have to compromise in his everything. Yes. Feeling deep separation from his spiritual master, as appreciation for him also how he greatly did, but somehow Gaudiya Math failed. Approaching to Bhakti Vilas, which today's subject discussed, Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Swami Maharaj, but didn't work out with Gaudiya Math, who's leading the Gaudiya Math. Yes, anyone else more? 2 minutes we can speak. Anything we remember? No? There are a lot actually, there are lots. He wrote Virahastakam in separation from his spiritual master, a prayer in separation to his spiritual master, glorifying him. And Virahastakam he wrote, right?
Used to visit all the famous temples in Vrindavan when he was there.
Yeah. Right. He also again went to Kanpur, right? He planned to go to Kanpur and try to preach there as well during this chapter itself. And from Kanpur, then came to Vrindavan. From Vrindavan, then went to Bombay. So this is also a big, heavy journey. This chapter, it shows how much he struggled. No money, nothing, no support. Finally, Krishna took everything from him. You must surrender fully in the form of sannyas. So his spiritual master came in dream, and God brothers also confirmed the same. So finally, his Abhayacharana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He's going to start his mission to West now. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. LILAMRITA ki jai. Hare Bol.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.